This is Math Studies Lesson 12.1, Simple Interest. The formula for simple interest is interest equals principal times rate times time. So if we need to know I is interest, P is principal, and that is the starting amount, R is the interest rate, and that is a percent. Usually you need to convert that to a decimal, and T is time, and for simple interest we always give that in years. So I can use this first equation here to try to calculate the simple interest for example A. Calculate the simple interest on a loan of $8,000 at a rate of 7% over 18 months. So I know $8,000 is my principal, 7% is my interest rate, and 18 months is my time. So to calculate the simple interest, I do the principal times the rate. 7% as a decimal is 0.07. We take the decimal behind the 7 and move it 2 places to the right. Alternatively, you could do 7 divided by 100. Or if your calculator has a percent button, you could just type 7%. And then the last piece is time. Since this is 18 months, I do 18 over 12 because there are 12 months in a year, and that gives me 1.5 years. So I can do 8,000 times 0.07 times 1.5, and I get $840. So if I wanted to borrow $8,000 at a 7% interest rate and pay it back over 18 months, that loan would cost me $840 in interest. So we can take this formula right here and we can rearrange each of those pieces to solve for different values. So if instead I wanted to calculate principal, I could take the interest, divide it by the rate, divide it by the time. Or let's say I wanted to solve for the rate. I could take the interest divided by the principal divided by the time. Or let's say I wanted to solve for time. How long would it take? I start with the interest divided by the principal and divided by the rate. So this same formula, but rearranged in different ways, allows us to solve some of these other questions. So example B says, how much is borrowed if a rate of 6.5% simple interest results in an interest charge of $3,900 after 5 years? So how much is borrowed means I'm trying to find the principal. So to get principal, I need the interest divided by the rate divided by the time. So my interest charge is $3,900. My interest rate is 6.5%. Now remember, I need to take that decimal and move it 2 places. So that would be 0.065, and divided by how many years go by, and this says 5 years. Oh, let me start that over. $12,000. So I borrowed $12,000. I was charged $3,900 in interest with a 6.5% rate over 5 years. The next question says, if you wanted to earn $6,000 in interest on a 4-year loan of $18,000, what rate of simple interest would you need to charge? So in this case, we are solving for R. Let me go up a little bit so I can see my R formula at the top here. R equals interest. Interest, I have $6,000 in interest divided by principal. My starting amount was $18,000. And how much time went by? 4 years. Usually time and the rate are really easy to identify. Sometimes interest and principal are a little harder to identify because they are both dollar amounts. When you have both, just remember that the interest is always smaller than the principal in terms of simple interest. So I can put that in here. And that is 0.0833333. In other words, that is 8.33% when I undo the decimal. The next example says, how long would it take to earn interest of $4,760 on a loan of $16,000 if an 8.5% simple interest is charged? Okay, so this one says, how long does it take? This is the formula I need down here, and I'm just gonna put them down here because I can't really see the top at the same time. So to get how long would it take, I start with my interest. Interest is $47.60 divided by my starting amount, my principal, divided by my rate. I have an 8.5% rate. Converting that to a decimal, that is 0.085. 4760 divided by 16,000 divided by 0.085, and I get 3.5 years. Now my last example says calculate the monthly repayments on a loan of $7,000 at 8.5% simple interest over 4 years. So we'll add one more piece to our notes. To calculate repayments, capital R for repayments. Not to be confused with this lowercase r for interest rate, but capital R for repayments. We need the total cost, which is the interest, the principal plus the interest, and then we take the total cost and we divide it by how many months went by. So N for number of months. Maybe I'll add that, number of months. Okay, so my total repayments formula is the total cost, principal plus interest, and then divided by the number of months. So let's bring that one down here. So first I need to calculate the interest using the original interest formula from way up here. So I think I'm going to bring that guy down too. Okay, so first interest is principal times rate times time and I have an interest charge of $2,380. Then my repayment will be the total cost, which is the sum of my principal, the original amount I borrowed, plus my interest charge, divided by the number of months. So over 4 years, I need to figure out how many months that is. 4 years times 12 months a year is 48 months. And now I can do my total cost, $7,000 plus $2,380, divided by my number of months, and I have to pay back $195.42 if I round that appropriately. Oops. $195.42 a month. So if I pay back $195.42 a month, that will allow me to pay back the $7,000 for the principal and the $2,380 for the interest in exactly 48 months. So that is it for the exercise, or for the examples, sorry. Good luck on the exercises, and please ask me either in person or through email if you have any questions.